A mass shooting in Umlazi, KwaZulu-Natal has left 8 people dead, prompting a manhunt for the perpetrators. This incident adds to a growing list of mass killings in South Africa, raising urgent questions about public safety and law enforcement efficacy. Criminal law expert Ian Allis joins us to analyse the factors contributing to such violent crimes and the legal frameworks in place to address them. Ian, appreciate your time. Always good to speak to you. Now, what are the underlying factors, or maybe the commonalities around mass shootings in South Africa?
Good afternoon, Hugo. Good afternoon to the viewers. Unfortunately, all I can say is it's becoming another day in paradise in regards to South African violent crimes. Is the frequency of it is starting to increase exponentially, and that's usually the case of it being a poorly monitored area, poor resourced police, ineffective policing, elements of corruption, and just overall violent tendencies, be that they're encouraged through poverty or anything that, or basically just pure retribution and violence. So the unlawfulness and it cannot really be fully explained as to the reason why, but it's getting worse and worse. And as far as the legal framework, all the courts can do is prosecute them if they're actually caught in the first place, which most of the time that isn't even becoming a reality because of the police force being in this disarray, and especially out in rural areas.
Now, you've talked about retribution. Is that a key element to these mass shootings?
There's elements of it, and the problem is that there's often where there's smoke, there's fire in a lot, because we don't really know what is happening in a lot of these areas. They're not well reported on. The nature of the crimes that are taking place then aren't made particularly public, because most of the time we actually are learning about crimes in the major metropolitans, Johannesburg, Cape Town, Pretoria, Durban itself, Pietermaritzburg. But the problem is it's more of the outlying areas where one doesn't actually get the full information as to what is really taking place. And that then also leads to issues about reasoning behind it and where the people are obtaining the arms to do this and the reasoning behind it. And there may well be retributive factors, there may be political factors, there's corruption factors, but there's also other type of factors that these areas are often used as routes for trafficking and other type of undesirable criminal activity.
Now, the police minister, and I quote, says, "The attack, which claimed the lives of innocent individuals, is a horrific act of violence that has no place in our society," end of quote. Right? Now, he suggested that these individuals were innocent, but if it's a case of retribution, right, does it suggest that there's some form of family feud or feud of sorts that's going on in these communities? I mean, the numbers of individuals often at a gathering, so it's not individuals that are shot or killed separately, but it almost seems to be a grouping of individuals, suggesting that there's a common interest.
That's exactly why I said that. Is, you know what, even if the people, and the thing is that there's got to be a big difference said between people being innocent and retributive measures. Now, at the end of the day, we're always saying that these people committed crimes, so I don't want that to be misconstrued. But one must go ahead and understand that because you're dealing with an entire family getting gunned down in their home, that there's sometimes more to it. And certain times it's also fellow family members who are involved. There's so many different reasons, but it is a commonality that is starting to arise when you're taking a look, and that a lot of these mass shootings is entire families. And that's happened in the Eastern Cape, it's happening in KZN, which one must then take a look and scratch a little bit beyond the surface to wonder, why is it that an entire family is getting wiped out? What is really happening within those areas that, furthermore, after the attack, that the success of actually finding the perpetrators is so slim.
Now, a few days ago, we learned of an individual who was convicted of rape and sentenced to multiple life terms. Are there specific legislative reforms that could help curb the rise in mass killings? Could stiffer sentences, stiffer penalties be the answer?
There's a lot of different aspects when it comes with punitive measures that can be dished out. But first, there needs to be an understanding of the actual prosecution of it, and that there's a better risk that you're going to get caught and that you're going to be prosecuted and then you're going to get sentenced. So yes, sentencing can be made harsher in certain regards. I know there's been a lot of calls also for the death penalty, irrespective of which side of the fence you want to sit on, and stiffer punishments for different people and different offences. But you've got to catch the people first. Well, you can't go ahead and implement a sentence when you don't have your individual who's in actual fact been arrested, they've been detained, and they've been prosecuted. If they still walking around freely with reckless abandon and continuing to do as they do, the stiffer penalties are not going to be a deterrent, because being caught is going to be the deterrent.
Now, how can communities be empowered to assist in crime prevention and reporting?
That's actually very, very interesting, and that is that community development and community protection forums have been actually on the increase throughout South Africa in various areas. But the problem is that for that to be a success, they need to be backed up properly by the police, and they also have to be supported by the necessary politicians and ward councillors for that area, who are going ahead and also standing behind law enforcement and community services forums. Because yes, they can assist in helping with not so much investigations, but giving witness testimony, helping to point out individuals, helping just to go ahead and become sources of information within the community to assist. But at the same time then they need to know that they are safe if they are going to act as whistleblowers, which if you've got an inept police force and a corrupt police force, that is the problem, is because nobody feels safe except for the criminals.
Now, how much of this problem is an issue around ineffective policing versus socio-economic inequality?
You know what? It differs. And the thing is, it's a very difficult question to answer if one takes a look at South Africa as a whole. Because in reality, you've got bigger metros where you've got higher degrees of resources being plowed into policing, but it's the quality of the policing. So other places where it's very poverty laden tends to have less policing, and in terms of the policing that they have is less effective. So one needs to look. You could also have certain of the police stations where they're servicing a smaller area, but because there's a lack of violent crime, and you do find this in certain smaller towns, their policing, irrespective of the financial means of the community, are in fact very high and higher standard, because they've got the experience. If you are putting in 20,000 rookie police officials, even into your major metros, that's not going to help a problem when that could be sorted out by 5,000 experienced police officials. And you eliminate your corruption factor, where you've got police who are working hand in glove with certain of the criminal syndicates.
Ian Allis, we're going to leave that conversation. Criminal expert speaking to us around the mass shooting in Umlazi in KwaZulu-Natal, which left 8 people dead.